everybody. I'm Zenith Warrior Princess, and welcome back to the Disney debate where Kat Macberrie, Doug Macberrie, and myself discuss Disney movies. And we are finally on a new marathon. We have moved past the Flubber, and now we're going on to the Parent Trap, starting with the 1961 version with Haley Mills. But before we dive into the Parent Trap, how's it going, Kat?
We're done with Flubber. We're done with Flubber, thank God.
Unfortunately, I did not find the hidden flubber of Providence, Rhode Island.
It's not hot enough yet, give it time.
Soon enough. Doug, how's it going?
Let's get together, Zen is fat. We will all combine.
I'm sorry, but look, I don't think you understand that song kind of sucks.
Maybe for you, but you don't know how people in the 60s reacted to it.
Yeah, that's true. I wasn't around during the 60s. Anyway, today we're talking about the 1961 Parent Trap, which you might have heard of because there was a remake, with Lindsay Lohan. So the Parent Trap has been around for a while, but we're talking about the original Haley Mills version, which is about two twins who have divorced parents, and they find out that they're twins, and they hate each other for a little bit, then they love each other, and then they try to get their parents back together. Hence the Parent Trap. Kat, what are your initial thoughts on this movie?
Well, I just want to get this out of the way right now. This is a horrible premise. Like, The Parent Trap as a comedy, it does indeed work. There are some parts about it I do like. But it's like the initial concept of it, the fact that there are these two girls who are identical twins, only meet each other when they're like 13 years old for like the first time, and their parents never ever told them about each other up to that point. Like, that's a horrible concept. Cause like, I get it, like, parents divorce, a lot of times they end up splitting up the siblings, but at least, for the most part, the parents try to stay in contact with all the kids, at least let the siblings like see each other. In this instance, the girls didn't even know that the other existed. They essentially existed on opposite ends of the country as pretty much the same person, but they never knew each other before then. And chances are their parents never would have told them about each other had they not ran into each other at camp. Like, that is like awful. Like, I just want to get that out of the way here and there, because this movie I think was actually pretty decent. Like, it was much more enjoyable than the Flubber movies, that's for sure.
Yeah, in general, I do think that this is a premise that should not work, but actually did work. Although it's kind of funny how the conflict in this version begins, because they hate each other because they have the same face.
Yeah, I don't understand the conflict. Like, and the weird thing is, it's not even that the girls themselves have beef with the fact that they look alike. It's the girls they hang out with who have the issue. He's like, she has your face. What are you gonna do about it? Like, what do you want her to do about it? Rip her face off?
I'm gonna take her face off. Licking face off.
Oh god, like, the whole conflict at the beginning is so stupid. Like, and of course it exists just so they can get into a fight with each other, and then they have to be isolated from the other campers. Thus, they're forced to be together, where they learn about each other's lives and eventually discover they have the same parents. Like, that's the whole thing.
Which could have been done another way. Like, just saying, like, you could have had them be in the same cabin during the camp thing and figure it out. I mean, there's other things. Instead of just going like, Doug, you have the same face as me. You stole my face. What are you gonna do about it?
I'm gonna beat your ass.
But it doesn't make sense. It doesn't
Give me my face back.
What do you think, Doug?
No, I agree completely. It's definitely better than the absent-minded professor films, but dear God, that is not a good premise. Like I think it would have been fine if their whole premise was like that the father was getting remarried to that bitchy woman, and they team up to try and stop it, but it's like the fact that they're like trying to get the two parents back together at all is like no, no. That does not work with me. No, no.
And the thing is, these two people are very incompatible together. Um, when we actually see the two of them together, we see how dysfunctional and abusive both of them are, and I don't want them to get back together.
Yeah, that was because it's not like because again the only frame of reference I have for the Parent Trap is the newest one with Lindsay Lohan, and it's not like in that one where they kind of show a bit of the relationship at first and you see how in love they were, and then it was just little things that kind of got bigger and ultimately destroy the relationship. In this case, as soon as like they are in the same room together, they instantly start shouting at each other. And then within like 5 minutes, the mom has punched the dad in the face. I'm like, okay, I see why you guys broke up.
Yep, because it ended in murder.
And they even like admit that they do not belong together. They know they can't be together.
And the only reason that they get together at points during the film is because of the daughters. And the daughters, like, wanting to be together. And it's just like, look, I know being divorced and on opposite sides of the world is kind of, it's tough. I get it. But here's the thing. You have a choice. You could both be with one parent, or you could, there's something you could do instead of having these people together that clearly do not work together.
Yeah, I mean, I come from a family where my parents are divorced. I have both step siblings and half siblings, and I don't get to see them all the time, because we all live in different places now. But the point is, when we were growing up, I still got to see, my half siblings and step siblings on a semi-regular basis. There was a setup for that. We had visitations. We'd organize a thing to go to like every month or something. We'd make it a point to like stay in touch, either through the phone or whatever. And the fact that this movie just can't have that without the parents getting together, like, I guess that it kind of is a product of its time, because at that point, divorce wasn't as common yet, and it was kind of stigmatized. And it's like, well, obviously, if they move apart, they can never ever talk to each other again. Like, I get it, cell phones were invented at that point, but there are other ways, and they actually showed during the movie that they do call each other back and forth, and they send telegrams, so it's not like communication isn't impossible.
Speaking of which, the telegram system, like, they bring it to them during dinner, and like they get super suspicious that she's getting a telegram, and I'm just like, guys, she has a friend at camp. Like,
He's like, who would talk to you?
That's the thing. They're so bad at like lying about it. It's like, yeah, you could easily just say, oh, it's a friend from camp that I'm really close with. But no, they have to like be like, this thing, this, really contrived thing that, no. Why do you have to make it so complicated on yourselves?
And it's funny because when they first come up with the plan, they go like really in depth on the details, like learning each other's backgrounds, where they grew up, where all the rooms in their houses are located, the name of every single person that they see on a daily basis and stuff. And they even get it down to the point where like the one girl chews her fingernails so she looks like her sister. But then it comes to like things like you said with the telegram, and the girls are like, it's like how hard is it to just say, like, oh yeah, friend from camp. There you go. But like they make a big deal out of it and draw more attention to themselves than is necessary. Like typical, typical like TV comedy basically. Like this could easily be explained away with like one sentence or a simple explanation, but no, we got to like be awkward and we got to like pull some huge random thing out of our ass just to like, make it seem like we're trying to come up with something.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, the comedy is supposed to come from how ditzy and bad they are at lying. But, I mean, don't get me wrong. Hayley Mills is good at portraying both versions of herself, even though she sounds British for no good reason.
Yeah, she's supposed to be from Boston in one aspect.
Now, Barry from Boston is going to have a few words with her about her Boston accent.
Yeah, I don't understand that choice. Like, dear God. I mean, I'm not blaming Hayley Mills, of course. She's doing her best. Like, the problem is, like, the characters aren't written that well. They're not written with enough differences. Like, I can't look at one and say, oh, yeah, that's definitely this twin, and oh, I look at this one, yeah, that's definitely that twin. Like, there's no real difference between them, and even though they try to give the one girl, like, a proper English-type accent, she quickly loses it by the second half. And and the whole accent thing is baffling to begin with, because like you said, she's from Boston. Her mother and her family are apparently from Boston, but they all have, like, British accents. It's, like, the weirdest thing ever.
And then there's the family from California who has all Southern accents. I'm like, it feels like, why not just make it from Texas?
Like, I get it, there are, like, Southern ranches in, like, California, but a lot of them sound like they walked off the set of, like, Little House on the Prairie.
So yeah, we have the California and the Boston families. So they switch because one of them has never met her mother and one of them has never met their father, and they make a plan to get their father to fall in love with the mother. First of all, I don't like the father that much.
No, he's an asshole.
he yeah, I mean, like, he's this guy who's very wealthy and his new girlfriend is just using him for his money, but even still, there's not really much to like about him. I at least like the mother. The mother, she was brought up in this prim and proper Boston place, and so yeah, I can see why she's a little bit stuck up at times, but for the most part, she's a little bit more accepting. It's it's honestly the grandmother that I hate on that side.
The thing that I find funny about the dad is that he's supposed to be like this cowboy from like California, but he looks and sounds like a New York gangster. And it's funny because his actor is from Jersey. And you can kind of tell in the accent.
He definitely looks like a Jersey boy, and he definitely looks like what Hollywood thinks a ranch hand would look like, but he doesn't look dirty under the knuckles, and like there's just a bunch of telltale signs that, like, you guys have never been on a ranch.
Nope. And the even more baffling is the fact that, even though he's like, this grizzled, like, cowboy from the West, and she's like this prim and proper redhead from the East and stuff, their daughters are like two like blue-eyed blonde girls who who don't resemble either of them in the slightest. And it's funny because in the newer one, like, they switch it so that the mother is blonde, but the twins are redheads.
Dun dun dun. So yeah, the entire premise of this movie is them trying to get the parents back together. The thing that really got me about this version, and I think it's still a pretty good version, I do prefer the Lindsay Lohan version, though I haven't really seen it in a long time, so we're gonna get to that when we get to that. But right now, the thing that got me about this is that it is padded, it takes forever for them to even find out that their daughters are switched. I think it's like halfway through the movie that they find out the daughters have been switched, and it takes a lot of time just setting up like the servants and all these other people and like, you know, this and that. Whereas in a future version, I believe they find out much earlier, and it's more about them trying to get the mothers back together. And I think that works a little bit better, because here, like, even just the stuff at camp takes forever. Like, they have the stuff at the dance where, like, they cut her dress and somehow she doesn't know it, and like there's a lot of padding.
Yeah, the pacing is definitely like slower than in the newer one. Granted, the newer one hits basically all the same points as this one. I just think pacing wise, you know, it's a lot slower because it's more setup than anything, and giving attention to all these like side characters that really are kind of superfluous in the grand scheme of things. Hence why they were cut in the future installment.
Thank God, because I mean, I'm looking back on it and I remember that like the male and servant and the female servant that the father has, but I can't remember their names. The only thing I remember is that one of them was always talking about, like, talking gossip and be like, but I'm not, nobody heard from me. Like, you know, she was always gossiping. And then there was the guy who's just a guy. And then on the other side, there's the grandfather who's really cool, and the grandmother who's kind of a bitch.
I like the grandfather, like, in both versions, because you could tell he's, like, the most chill out of everybody. Mm-hmm. And he's easily the smartest, too, because he catches on pretty early.
Yeah, he catches on pretty early on. Like, I honestly want to say that the grandfather caught on with the moment she walked in the door and knew something was up, but he didn't say anything because his grandmother just doesn't like having him around for some reason.
You know, typical quarreling old couple. You know, you get sick of each other in old age.
I don't know, Doug, what are your thoughts on these side characters who are kind of there?
Yep, that's basically apropos to describe them. Most of them are just there. They maybe have like one or two things that maybe you remember, but yeah, it's like for the most part, they're ultimately pointless in the whole grand scheme of things.
I do like how in the one scene, like, the grandfather is, like, smoking, like, a cigar, and he just, like, keeps, like, putting the ashes into his hand. I'm like, how does that not hurt? like either he's like a total badass, or he's like, you know, he's like screaming internally while he's doing that.
I think he's screaming internally the entire time because of the grandmother.
Well, yeah, if you had a grandmother like her, I'd understand that.
But one thing I will say, I think Haley Mills is probably the thing that really does sell this version for me, because there isn't too much for the side characters to do, and I'm not really a big fan of the parents, but you have Haley Mills really selling it, and the effect work is really, really well done for the 60s. Like, this compared to the Absent-Minded Professor, where you could tell everything was blue screened in, here they did a great job of having these two characters interact, and the stunt doubles really do look like them. The only thing that I thought was a little bit weird was the wigs that they gave them, because when the hair was long, because that was very noticeable.
Yeah, I don't know if, like, that was supposed to be, like, hair extensions or a wig. Like, I just know that the hair looked awful, and I get it. This is, like, the 60s. They like to have the hair big and whatnot, but it is, like, so noticeable, because, like, not to diss Haley Mills, but, like, the hair made her forehead look gigantic, so I couldn't help but, like, always stray up toward her hair, and I'm like, I want to comb it. Like, I want to just, like, comb it down just to cover it, or do something with it. But the effects, yeah, were, like, I was really impressed because I expected there to be like something like either like an overlap of the background or maybe like one of the characters like disappears once in a while or something that you see in like old-timey films that like they try to crop like two of the same actor in the same scene together, but it doesn't quite work. But this one is actually quite flawless. From what I read, apparently instead of using like a chroma key technique, they used sodium vapor process, which actually makes the scenes blend together a lot better. And from what it says, Walt Disney was like so impressed with how they did it. He actually had them rewrite the script so that way Hayley Mills would interact with herself a whole lot more and make the movie more of a spectacle.
And that really puts the nail on the head. I think this movie is much like The Absent-Minded Professor. This is a technical film. This, they wanted to show off the technique of, having two people on screen, and there's some really great scenes with it, especially when they're singing and dancing together, which I thought was really nice. Like, there's some really great scenes of them working together, and, despite a lot of the problems I have with the plot itself, it's just interesting to see them together and in thwart to this evil girl who wants the father's money, and that to me is the reason to watch the film. Doug?
So I agree in terms of, yes, that the blending of the Hayley Mills scenes is very flawless, but then at the same time you've got a park that doesn't look like a park. You've got this like weird, like that they go through a park and then like the background doesn't really match up with I guess what they're doing.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's weird because for whatever reason, I guess maybe they couldn't get the rights to like certain places they wanted to film in, like out public parks or whatever. Because the one scene you mentioned, yeah, it's the mother and one of the twins, and they're walking through the park. But then, like, suddenly it switches to green screen, and they're all just kind of like, shifting back and forth in front of like this obviously fake background. I'm like, did all the money go into like the effects and they had nothing left for like a filming permit? Like, how hard would it have been to like film inside like a place that like resembled a park? Like, come on.
Mr. Disney, we ran out of money because you told us to film more scenes with the Mills. What do you want us to... you just green screen. I worked at the Absent-Minded Professor.
And those effects now look horrible.
But I mean, I think that's part of the 1960s. They were still figuring out some effects. Green screen was the best they could do for some things, and unfortunately the flying car looks much better today than it does there. And the thing I will say is that regardless of the aging of the blue screen that they used, the effect work that they used for Hayley Mills actually holds up, which is something that I find kind of interesting, considering everything we've seen from effects in the past.
Yeah, I mean, it was good enough. It actually got nominated for 2 Academy Awards, one for sound and one for film editing. So, definitely, yeah, it's worth acknowledgement in that regard.
Other than that, I mean, like, this is one of those films where you pretty much... The title and the premise of the movie is the entire film. And there's some good stuff. Like, I do like Hayley Mills' acting, even though, it's sometimes hard to distinguish them. I do like a lot of the stuff that happens with the Boston family, but a lot of the comedy and interaction just comes from the premise of let's get these people together, and I don't like these two parents together.
I will say I do like Maureen O'Hara just because she's a pretty good actress, and I did like how she actually pulled off some good comedic timing in certain parts of the movie. It's just the problem was her character was written as, a nagging shrew, basically. Like, I think if her character was written a little better, she would have been more appealing.
And the thing that gets me too is that she never fights getting back together with him. She puts out an outfit to impress him and all this other stuff. She's trying to get him back the entire time.
Yeah, the thing about that is that like, we obviously see that they have issues, like legit serious issues, but the way that they frame it, it's like, oh, the only reason they broke up like they did is because they never actually, stayed together in one place and actually talked to their problems. Like, all they need to do is, like, have, like, a therapy session and boom, they're back together again. It's like, okay, that's really all it took? You kept your children apart for, over a decade because you guys couldn't just sit down and talk out your problems?
And another problem I have is the messing with the evil gold digger is way too short. It's much longer in the Lindsay Lohan film from what I remember, and honestly, it should have been longer because it's fun seeing her be messed with. That's like my favorite part of the film when she's like, they do all the things to her tent and then they mess with her about like, scouting stuff. Like, that's entertaining, but it's like a half an hour of the film.
Yeah, like, I mean, I just don't like the character because she's your stereotypical gold digger. Like, I appreciate that she tries to be a little manipulative in how she's, trying to, like, cozy up to the daughter and, like, make it seem like she's a good person, even though it's quite obvious she isn't. But, I mean, we all know where this is going. Although, I gotta say, like, one thing that kept annoying me throughout the movie is that, mostly the mother, but, like, the other characters were, like, kept referring to the gold digger as, like, oh, she's just a child. Like, and I'm like, how is she a child? She actually looks older than the mother in some regards. Like, she's obviously, like, shorter and smaller and, like, in frame, but, she has the hairstyle of, like, a 50-year-old grandmother. Like, how the hell is she young? I don't get it.
See, that's movie magic. Movie magic.
Yeah, but, like, even in context, they said that, like, was it the real, like, the real age gap between the actors is, like, 13 years. And the guy was, like, a lot older, so how does that really count and make her, like, a child? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's very weird.
And and what was it? I actually heard she, like, the actress, was it Joanna Barnes? She's actually the only cast member that actually reappears in the newer Parent Trap, and it's kind of, like, appropriate because she plays the mother in the newer one who trains her daughter to be a gold digger. So it's like, wait, is this connected?
Dun dun dun.
Mr. Wilson, it's happening again.
All right, I think we should talk about the musical numbers, which were made by the Sherman Brothers. We have The Parent Trap, which is the opening number, which, much like the Shaggy, the Shaggy Dog that they...
The Shaggy DA.
The Shaggy DA, they have stop-motion animation, which I was laughing the entire time because it looks really dated and funny, but I like the song The Parent Trap. It's cheesy, it's very 60s, but it works.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I honestly don't remember much of it. I was, like, paying attention more to the visuals than the song. And the visuals were, like, so misleading, too, because they make it seem like the parents are already together, but they're having a fight, and the daughters are trying to find a way to, like, get them to talk out their problems. And the funny thing is, like, the daughters don't look nothing like the daughters in the movie. In fact, the models for the daughters don't even look like each other, and they're supposed to be twins.
and they do the whole, oh, let's get them together in the shower thing, but it doesn't happen in the movie. They tease it, but
I
it
know,
doesn't
I was
happen.
waiting for that and it never happened.
Oh, what do you think, Doug?
No, I basically the same thing. I don't remember much about the song itself. I really just remember like kind of the the prelude. Just with the animation. That's I mean, it's kind of forgettable otherwise.
And now we should talk about the other song, Let's Get Together, which I'm gonna be honest, I never really liked this song. It seems it's annoying to me. I don't know what it is, but it is like very grating on me.
Like, it reminds me of, like, I could see, like, either the Beach Boys or the Monkees do it, like, doing this song, and it would totally fit. Because it's obviously a 60s song. Like, no doubt about it. That's the whole style of it. But, yeah, I mean, I don't care for the song either. It is definitely, like, a bit of an earworm, though. Just because of its repetition and, like, the jauntiness of it.
Apparently, Haley's own own single of the song reached number 8 on the U.S. charts, which that's interesting. I mean, I like the version that Haley sings better than the one that's recorded. You know the original one that they dance to at the dance, but
Right.
even still, it's not really my cup of tea.
No, I hear ya. I mean, if you like, I only can see the only way I can see anybody liking it is if they like those really like cheesy early '60s music. You know, like kind of in the same style of the Beatles, but like cheesier. You know, something that you can like dance to on the beach. That's basically what I imagine when I hear that song.
Any thoughts on that, Doug?
Yeah, no, I agree too that it's not the best song, but I definitely remember it out of everything. I think it's kind of like, if Kids Bop existed in the 60s. So it's like,
Oh God! Don't even mention that abomination.
it's like one of those tamer versions of another 60s song, another 60s pop song. But yeah, I mean, it's harmless. And I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
just,
not awful.
and of course, having that, the Haley Mills double, version of it is probably the highlight of the film, seeing the two of them together performing it. But yeah, definitely the one that was in the recorded version. I did not care for that one bit.
Yeah, to be honest, to me, the highlights of this film are them singing and dancing together, recording together, just the interaction of them together. Other than that, this movie, while good, is not great. I would not call it like on the same level as, say, the Shaggy DA, where you gotta see it. It's, if you're interested, watch this film. But it's not something that I would really go out of my way to watch again.
Oh, we forgot to mention the best character in the film, though.
The priest.
Reverend
Oh
Mosby.
God, the priest. the priest is probably the best part of the movie, because the entire time he's just sitting back and watching the parents fight and all this stuff happening, and he has a double shot of like bourbon or something like that, and he's just enjoying all of it. I remember you were saying that we go from a priest in what was
Pollyanna.
it? In Pollyanna, who's all doom and gloom and you're going to hell. And then we get this priest who's really chill, who drinks, who doesn't care that this guy looks like he's cheating on his new fiance with his ex-wife. Like, he's just a chill priest. I like him.
He was my favorite character, like, because you think, like, in any comedy type situation, he would be, like, the obvious, neurotic priest who, like, as soon as he sees that, like, the couple doing some sacrilegious thing, he throws a big tiff about it. But in this case, it's, like, right off the bat, he needs a drink because he can't deal with the fiancé and her mother, like, knowing how they are. And then he walks in on, like, the father and mother in a compromising situation. He's like, oh, don't mind me, do your thing. And then after he when he gets the fiance to meet the mother, the priest is just in the background, just sitting there with his bourbon, swirling it and watching them with interest.
and they're all fighting, and he's just like, oh, this is a great show. It's like, don't you want to do something? No, I'm enjoying myself.
And at one point, he even like hits on the mother, like is flirting with her mildly and stuff. And he turns to the father and is like, "Ooh, she's a good one. How'd you let her get away?" And then he says it later on to the fiance too. It's like, wow, you're trolling, man. The priest be trolling.
They see me trolling. I'm a priest, man.
I just wanted to mention that real quick. So.
Honestly, I think I've exhausted all talking points that I personally can have, so I'm going to delve into my final thoughts. This movie is just good. It's not great. It is technically pretty good, aside from the blue screen issue, but I mean, the effect work, I think, is really well done, and I think that's probably the reason why this film was made. It's like they wanted to do something really technically well done. They saw it, and they're like, all right, let's make it happen. Is it really a necessary viewing? Not really, not unless you're a Disney fan, and even then, like, I don't really want to watch it again. I don't remember too much of the Lindsay Lohan version, but I remember watching that multiple times and enjoying it. So, I don't know. Personally, I think this one is a one and done for me. I wouldn't call it a skip. Watch it if you're interested. But that's my take. Final thoughts, Kat?
Yeah, so this movie was okay. It was, like you said, harmless. The effects are great. Acting is pretty decent. And, it definitely has its place in history. I can appreciate it for what it is. I still absolutely hate the concept, though. That's just as somebody as a child of divorced parents, I just hate the idea that, parents would keep the identity of their siblings, like, hidden from each other. That still rubs me the wrong way, but that aside, this does make it for a good comedy. Like, they do hit some points. I still think it drags a bit in parts, and they definitely could cut down on things, which they did in the later installment. But for the most part, yeah, it's definitely worth a watch at least once, and, like I said, I still like the newer one better, just because it's more well-acted with better effects, but that's just me personally.
And Mr. Doug, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I'm basically of the same mind. It's better than the Absent-Minded Professor. Like, I don't like it that much, but I'm not as angry as I was with that. I think it's kind of, in terms of, like, the whole concept of it, I think there's kind of an Oedipus sort of thing going on where, you tried to avoid this scenario and it wound up happening anyway. So, yeah, there's that aspect of it. It's an okay film. It's not great. It's got things that are iconic about it, and that, there are things to like about it, but it's like, if it were me, I'd say skip, but, if you're interested, there's no harm in it.
Honestly, this is one of those films that it's probably better off just watching the remake, but we'll get to that in the future. For right now, I am Zenith will rule. I'm not Zenith will rule. Shut up. With that being said, I'm Zenith, Warrior Princess.
I'm Kat Macberrie.
I'm Doug Macberrie.
And we will see you guys next time when we talk about one of the future Parent Trap films, assuming that we can find it, because there's apparently a lot of sequels to the original, and hopefully we'll be able to find them. If not, there's the remake. But anyway, have a good one, guys, and just remember that the 60s was a weird time, and sometimes you just made a movie because you wanted to show off some effect work.
Hey, this is Megami33. Thank you for watching Zenith Will Review. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more awesome videos. If you like what you see, check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/Zenith Will Review.